Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. As-salatu salam ala Rasulillahi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Halim wa salim bikum. Salamu alaykum rahmatullah barakatuh ikhwani ikhwati fi din. Salamu ala mani taba huda lil ikhwani ikhwati wa fi Africa, Europa, America, Caribbean wa kulli makan. Anjurama to my Kobe community, and thank you, my dear brothers and sisters, Jarama, for those who will see this in the near future. And we're continuing on here about the Fulani Herdsmen. And if you remember, those who's following, I broke it down from the bare essence of how we got leading to this point to the Fulani Herdsmen and the Fulani bandits. You remember we talked about that. I gave you the analogy about what would happen if Sudan is taken by the RSF, who are our relatives, the Fulani relatives, cousins, and what would happen from that point, and also show you how Sudan here in the red, showing you how tenuous this situation is. Everybody is waiting in the wings to see what's going to happen in Sudan. If the RSF prevail, you will have an upheaval through the whole Sahel region, because the RSF, as you heard me say for weeks now, are related. We are cousins to them, because we had our antecedents mixed there, especially in Western Sudan. And so the nucleus of the so-called rebel force now that the government is calling them, since they were fighting with them all these years, and suddenly when they wanted to vie for power, they said they were now rebels and outsiders and so forth and so on. So we covered that. We got to that point. We talked about those issues. We talked about our brothers and sisters among the Mujahideen and the bandits, and how they are, who they related to, how they look, how it's difficult to distinguish between the Fulani bandits and the Fulani Mujahideen. We talked about that, and we here we have some of the Fulani bandits who are raiding through Nigeria, northern Nigeria and central Nigeria, and see here, but they're not dressed, but you see them still, with AK-47s and so forth and so on. And then we talked about the Mujahideen, who are related to them. This is one segment of the ethnic groups that are there in Western Sudan, who I said the Hamar people, who are they are cattle raisers, and they still travel across the Sudan region from Western Sudan all the way into Habasha. Habasha in Arabic means Ethiopia, and how we're related to them as well, because they mixed with our antecedents when we arrived in the early 1800s in that region of Western Sudan. And I showed you the analogy here. You have these Mujahideen soldiers here, and then versus those who are the bandits, which are our brothers here. It's very difficult to distinguish between the two. So we went over that, and I covered that section and whatnot. And so we're going to continue on about this. And as you recall, I gave you the factor, the Fulani factor, which is massive. As you see here, we were running from one side of Africa to the other side. We have our brethren. And this is why it's very difficult, again, to contain the Fulani factor, because without the without the help of Africans, this situation is not going to subside, and we're going to have to find some avenue that will allow us to bring peace, which is going to be very difficult, because as I start to close this out, I'll start giving you recommendations to this problem, and what we should do to to help alleviate the problem that we have now. So I want to cover something here, because this is related, and it also goes into another scary fact. Here, I'm gonna give you the map in English. You see Mali over here to your left in yellow here. Mali, you don't hear much about it, except there's been disputes between the Malian government and the French. They've been bickering and arguing, and now the Russians have taken over from the French, and they've sent in their Wagner group. Remember, I talked about them 2 weeks ago, mercenary group into Mali to take on our brothers there in Mali, which I told you in some way, in my personal opinion, we should never, as Africans, hire the Tubab to come in to kill other Africans. This is a recipe for disaster, and we've shown this. Subhanahu wa ta'ala, in the way I feel, and for everything I know about Islam and our history and the history of Africa, because I'm an African historian as well, is when we have these wrongs like this is going on for hundreds of years, and suddenly you still bring back the colonizers, the white faces into Africa to kill black faces, something's going to happen. The Mujahideen groups and all the sultanates that we had in West Africa, okay, they were flourishing and they were rich and they were powerful. Finally, they were defeated. And the last one was Usman bin Fodio's emirate, which it covered northern Nigeria, Chad, Niger, all the way down to the Cameroons. It was massive, okay? It was massive. And it was the last one of the last defense against the colonial powers, and it finally fell in the early 1900s. And then all of the Islamic empires were gone, and of course, the rest of Africa had been taken, and they were colonized. So, with that said, Mali has been mired in a lot of different ethnic conflicts, as you heard me talk about. You have the Afro-Arabs, you have the Afro-Tuareg, and you have the Fulani. Now, what has happened is, I'm going to get into something here that is, again, I told you why this situation is so dangerous. And those who've been following me, I know those who may feel this is mundane to them, it's unimportant. I understand that. But I have to cover this because we're getting our news from other sources, and the news is not good. I've had a lot of good feedback. 99.9% people are learning something. They didn't realize the depth and the history of our Fulani people, what's going on in the Sahel region. They didn't realize that they had relatives there in Sudan. They didn't realize that. They didn't understand who the RSF was, or the Janjaweed as they were called previously. So they're starting to get this history. Others, they may not care about this. And I understand that. I'm not faulting you for that. But here, for those who have Africa in their mind, those who have Africa in their heart, and they want to see it prosper, and they want to understand what's going on in our beautiful continent. This is the place, one of the places here where you can get that information, because I'm going to give it to you straight. And as you know, you heard me talk the last couple of weeks, and even the other day, I gave you things personally happening with me, and I'm not scared to face the music against our enemy, our 400, well, a little bit more than that. Since the 1400s, the Tubab has been coming in and out of Africa, taking black slaves and so forth and so on, and one way or the other, and it's just changed over and over again. British, French, the Belgium, the Germans, now the Russians are here, the Chinese, who I classify, they're Asians, but I classify them as Tubab. And so we have all of those coming in and out of here still, and we're not free. So let's get into this. I would have to tell you something here. This is very interesting that's happening in Mali. And it's been going on for a number of years, and it's been kept quiet, but now it's surfaced. Selected Fulani Herdsmen Mujahideen in Mali decided a couple of years back, enough is enough. Bad governance, corruption, and the raiding, stealing of cattle from their brothers, the Afro-Arabs and the Afro-Tuareg. They had enough. And you see my title, The Reciprocity in the Sudan. If you understand this word very, very well, it has distinct meanings. Here, the Fulani people and its reciprocity is great because we have this union. It's been for centuries upon centuries where the Fulani come back to play. As you heard me talk about in Nigeria, the Nigerian government has complained saying we have Fulani brothers coming from everywhere to join in the fray in northern and central Nigeria. See, so when the Fulani are harmed and are in harm's way, or they call for jihad in some area, we have our brothers, reciprocity. They come and what? To make agreements with our brothers, come to assist our brothers, and so forth and so on. Now, again, let me preface what I'm talking about. We're not talking about right or wrong. You heard me talk about the Islamic part of this. I gave you weeks ago. I've talked about what the Quran has said and what our Prophet ﷺ has said about these issues. I gave you that. Irrespective of that, we still must cover what our brothers are doing. Okay, we must do that. So here, we're not talking about right and wrong. I told you what's going on, and what's wrong. And we talked about our famous Sheikh scholar, Sheikh Gumi there in Nigeria, and his conversations he's had with the press, laying out the side of the brothers. Because what has happened continuously is we get in the CNN side, we're getting the MSNBC side, we're getting the Tuba press in Europe, except two in particular I must mention. The Guardian, as you heard me say for weeks, they're pretty good about talking about our story. Okay, they're pretty good. They have some things that because they lack the language and maybe historical significance, but generally speaking, when they see a village was hit, they go ascertain who was hit. Oh, it were Fulani, they report that. If the Fulani did the killing of Hausa or Dongon or Christians or so forth, or with the traditional African religion, our brothers who worship that, they tell you who did it. They say, yes, Fulani gunmen came and did this. They're pretty good. Others are not so forthcoming. They see a grave of people, they say they, basically, they were slaughtered, gunmen came in and slaughtered. You don't know who is in the grave, who the ethnic groups are. Because as you heard me say 1,000 times here in Africa, we're still run by the ethnic, loyalties and ethnic nationalism. We still have that here. And we need to understand that. And it's not going away soon, even though Islam has broken through that, but we still have this element, because we still need to know when we see 50, 60, 70, 100 bodies in a mass grave dug up, we need to know who they were. And if we don't, they're Fulani, we automatically should be able to guess who did the killing. You see? But when we say we don't know, they're just black people who were slaughtered in this one village, then we don't have no investigative tools. But when we say, hey, these were Fulani, now we have a guess about who may have done it. We know that the doggone ethnic group have been at war with the Fulani for what, a couple of centuries now, all right? So because the Fulani had governed them and their emirates for hundreds and hundreds of years, and now it's payback time. See, so we have something. Look, just like a crime inside the United States, the detectives come into a crime scene. They want to know who. Okay, Johnny was hit, he was killed. They want to know who his enemies were. This is the same thing here. In order for them to start to do their investigation, ours here, we find the mass grave. So we go and we ascertain who these people were. They were Fulani. No, they were doggone. We know now the Fulani at war with them. We start to look to the Fulani clans, right? Because we know that they are enemies to them. So we have a direction to go because we know there's hostilities. So I'm just bringing that because I want to give this well-rounded education. So that way you'll be able to converse on this topic good. Because like that, I tell you, I've had things written to me. I mean, it's incredible. Most of it's because they didn't have the knowledge. Others are just mean-spirited, okay? But most of them did not have it. And then when I gave them the information, they start to research, okay, yeah, Sheikh Yahya, thank you very much. Yeah, now I understand. So Anyway, the selected herdsmen group decided it's over. Okay, they formed a big Islamic group of Mujahideen, and the Fulani youth began to join. This group is the Ansar Deen Masina. And anybody understands the Mali and its history, there was a Islamic state called Messina, centuries ago. Okay, we know that. So they took this name, and they were formed. They were formed because, again, we go back to the issue of the French marauded them. The Malian forces raided them and killed them off as well. They had others to join in the mix, which is the Dogon people, the ethnic group. If you read about them, they're very interesting, brothers and sisters. This is not off topic. They're very interesting. It's them. You might have heard of this one African tribe that has all this insight about the space, about up in the cosmos. It's very interesting about these people, what they have, the technology. If you read their history, they were giving us things about the space, about up in the atmosphere that they could not get because they were not visited by modern scientists as we know today. They had tools used. Definitely Subhanahu wa ta'ala had to give them some guidance because they had things. They're incredible people, and they had mapped up the up in space and so forth that the scientists have concurred. And many scientists did come to the Dogon people to find out, to see their instruments. They were shocked at what they found, that they were experts about space, okay, up in the atmosphere. How did they have this information? See, did they travel? Did somebody come and picked them up and took them up into space? Because we have to ask the question, because these brothers have all of this knowledge well before the Tubab came on the scene. See? So these are the Dogon people I've been talking about for weeks, but they're at war with the Fulanis. So now the Ansar Messina was sick of it. They were tired. So they went and did some things. I disagree, but again, I'm not in that region. I don't know what I would do in certain circumstances because they've been killed off. This group entered into talks with, remember, ISIS of West Africa. And here's the kicker, what I've been trying to tell you. Once the Fulani clans get together and they're sick of being hit, they're sick of being robbed, their cattle taken, their women taken and raped, okay? Or mass murdered, 50, 60, 100 mass graves, women, children, even suckling babies, or no one is spared. When they come through the village, nobody is spared. Luckily, some people escaped to tell what has happened. And so they formed these groups. They decided to go to the ISS, okay, the ISIS, to go to, to help them to form a Fulani emirate. Now, let's look at this, brothers and sisters. Let's look at this. The Fulani emirate, they wanted to take Mali. So you see Mali in your left. Remember, we've been talking about the emirates for weeks. I propose we give the Mujahideen, bring them to the table. We bring our famous scholars to the table to mediate all the groups, the Afro-Arabs, the Afro-Tuareg, the Fulani brothers, the Hausa brothers, bring all of us to the table. And then we give them this, which is massive. This is Niger right here. When you look to your right here, you see the two horsemen here. This Niger, and then you see a split in between there, and then the other lower part here is Burkina Faso. I propose that we give them this and bring all the Mujahideen groups, the Fulani Herdsmen, the Azawad, who are the Afro-Tuaregs, the Ansar Deen, who are Afro-Arabs, and bring the herdsmen, the bandits. If there's any more of the Boko Haram left, bring them in the mix as well. Sit them at the table and say, hey, this is what we're going to give you here. And then they can, we elect officials and we can go from there. This is our proposal I say. Because without this, brothers and sisters, all this killing and stuff is going to continue. And it's not getting better. This group here said, hey, okay, you did this to me. Now I'm going to start to kill. And they're doing it. And we already have the problem, as I told you before, in Mali. If you look at Mali, the map here in English, the northern tier is run by the Afro-Arabs and Afro-Tuareg. They were abused, brothers and sisters. No doubt. They were abused. They were really abused. They finally took to the weapons and formed a Mujahideen group to begin to take portions. Northern Mali today is run by them. You can look at Vice TV. You can look at some of the, I think France 24 has covered it in English. They've covered this. They're running mainly the northern part. What is interesting about this, brothers and sisters, after the treachery of the Malian government, because they've been having coups after coups, the treachery, they tried to pit the Fulani against these two groups here. They say, look, man, come on, join with us. And the Fulani were fooled. Some went to join, with the government forces and figured that they would be protected if they go with the government. But the government raided them anyway. And when they hired mercenaries, the mercenaries abused the Fulani. And they thought at this time that they were in good graces with the government. They found that they used them only to create a buffer, because the central southern part is controlled by the Fulani. Okay, bottom line. There's other groups there. I just got through telling you right now. Ansar Deen, Masina is one of the big groups. There's other ones there as well. Some are very ruthless. Others are not Mujahideen. They're just small militias who they protect their areas, okay, their grazing areas, and that's it. They don't believe in creating an emirate. They don't join any Mujahideen group. These are other Fulani as well. They don't want that. They don't believe in this. They want to protect their own. They don't want to join no Mujahideen group. But when some were hit by some of the other groups from the north and the Malian forces, then some begin to change mind, and they joined with the Masina group because out of protection. This is why I say, brothers and sisters, when we talk about this issue here, what do you do? What would you do? You think about that, brothers and sisters. You have nothing left. They destroyed everything, and they're going to come to kill you. They're going to come back because their habit is they'll come on a Wednesday, raid the village, kill, burn out, rape, pillage, everybody, okay? Kill women, children, everybody. So they'll come back either 2 to 3 days later to see who was left to come back to get their, maybe to come and get their belongings. And they will lay in wait and they watch. When you return back to the village to get your belongings, to see the damage, they come behind you and kill the rest of them off. This has been the habit. Some of them then have no other choice. They go to their brothers, the Masina group, and say, hey, we have no other choice. We didn't want to get involved in this, but now we must join you. This is what I'm talking about, brothers and sisters. Is this terrorism? I beg to differ with this term in a situation like this, because you or me would probably do the same thing. We want to survive. We want to live. We want something to protect our families. This is what I'm talking about. And this is why we have to understand the other side of this. We understand what the press is saying. Everything is terrorism. Blackface automatically is terrorism. Only a good black man is those who are controlled and are allowed, who work with the Tubab and so forth and so on, who bring the Tubab in, pay the Tubab, and kiss his boots. He's a good black man. But those who don't do that, they're terrorists. This is the bottom line. And that's this analogy that I give you. So, again, brothers and sisters, this situation is still dire there in southern part of Mali. Okay, now, these other militias, I told you, are self-defense militias. They've been deemed terrorists, even though they don't go, as you heard me talk, they don't go out to kill anybody. Now, you come to raid their grazing areas and come to take their cattle, or you come to take them out and come to ravish our Fulani sisters, they will take you on because they are armed. They're not terrorists. They're protecting themselves. And if you look at what they have said to Fulani press, they say, look, you cannot find any of us in any of these groups. We're here in this area and we're protecting our own. See, so all of these groups Now, here's the kicker to this. Brothers and sisters, if all of these Fulani, the self-defense militias, they got names. It's too many for me to give off. Okay, too many, because there's 20 here, 40 here, 100 here, 70 here, 300 here. It's too many. But if they got together with the Fulani Mujahideen in itself in Mali, they could take Mali. They have the sheer numbers to take Mali, brothers and sisters, and bring it and make it, as the Messina group has said, we want a emirate, and we want Mali as it, because why? The Fulani have always been instrumental in its kingdoms. But the Songhai and the other ethnic groups there, yes, they've always, some of there's a saying, we have five great scholars of Timbuktu. 3 of them are Fulani. Yes. See, so they have a claim. So they want to take Mali for their own. The only people who can take out the Azawad and the Ansar Deen in this region are Fulani. If these self-defense militias decide now to go rogue, so to speak, and join the Messina group, who are Mujahideen, and they kill, okay? They fight and kill. You ask the Malian government, after they have made their raids on, as you heard me talk about this many times, when I see, and I see pundits, black, white, black Tubab, white Tubab, making comments about soldiers being killed in ambush. Well, why don't they mention that these soldiers here hit and raped a Fulani village? And now we find in their graves, the grave sites, they go back to find what happened to all the people. Where are the bodies? They find them in mass graves. So the Fulani militias, along with their Mujahideen brothers, they call them, they go to search for these soldiers who did it. And they find them and they execute them. See, so do we call that terrorism? Because there's no court will convict them. There's no international court will convict them. There's no international body will deem them terrorists, but they deem the Fulani terrorists. This is the problem that we have in this case in the Sahel, that the Tubab governments are not equal players. They are a catalyst to more, and they're throwing, gasoline into a fire. So they could overtake and have a big war, I think, with Ansar Deen and the Azawad Mujahideen group. And I believe they could take them out just with the sheer numbers. And if you go back again, brothers and sisters, and you look at this map, you see Mali there. To your right is Niger. Who are there? The Fulani. If you go south there, you look, Burkina Faso. Who is there? Fulani. If you hit the southern reaches central to the southern part of Mauritania, which is to your left, who are there? Fulani. You look at northern Senegal, which is over further to your left, it's in the blue, in the northern region. Who are there? Fulani. You look there, you see Guinea. Who is there? Fulani. You understand what I'm talking about now, brothers and sisters? They have the Ansar Deen and the Azawad surrounded. If a jihad is called, and now Messina is asking to take Mali and bring it and make it a Fulani emirate, Islamic, not Islamic emirate. Now you understand what I'm talking about. They call up jihad. Brothers coming from Niger. They're probably even come from northern Nigeria. They come from Burkina Faso. They come from Senegal. They come from Mauritania. You see the sheer numbers, they would take them out. I firmly believe that, brothers and sisters. I firmly believe that this could happen. But we're not at that point now. But I'm giving you analysis for you to think about this. Okay, now. The Ansar Deen as well emphasized this point. There has been a number of Fulani Mujahideen attacks on military bases. We talked about that. And a lot of the time, the military bases are hit, not out of sheer hate, because these bases are used as a launching pad to kill Fulani. And a lot of times inside these bases are killer Tubab Tubabs from Europe, and they know that they're white faces. A lot of times you cannot find no documents on these Tubab when they die. You don't know if they're French, you don't know if they're American, you don't know if they're Belgium, you don't know if they're German, you don't know if they're Russian. See, so you cannot find out unless you understand the uniforms. If you understand, he said, hey, this guy's American, look at his uniform. But even that's not right, because we know that people are using other countries' uniforms so they can blame the Germans for something they didn't do. We know things like this is going on as well. But usually the Tubab, or a lot of times they don't have, but our brothers know that these people are French because by the uniform. See, so these attacks on these military bases, and these attacks, they have killed and wounded many. And here's the thing, brothers and sisters, that I find very interesting. I hear this all across the Sahel region. I hear the same thing across the Sahel region there. I got this in Arabic. You see the yellow part there. Basically, that's a rough estimate of the Sahel. It runs from all the way from Senegal, Mauritania, all the way across to Eritrea. And we hear the same format. The politicians, the security forces say the same thing. When the Fulani Mujahideen militia groups, whatever, hit a place, they do it thoroughly. They kill, they do what they got to do, and they disappear. And many are trying to find out, how can this be? Where did they go? How did they disappear? The Nigerian officials talked about the same thing. In central Nigeria, the Fulani Mujahideen and bandits hit an area, and sometimes they come right on the spot 15, 20 minutes later, and they can't find not one trace of these brothers. The Mali officials are talking the same thing. Burkina Faso officials said the same thing. The Niger officials said the same thing. The Fulani Mujahideen come in, they blast up the place, they make their revenge and retaliation, they kill all of their, or they only leave some, to tell the story, so to speak. That's what sometimes they do, that to put fear. They'll take out a whole bunch of ethnic groups who've been killing Fulani, and they say maybe there's 10 or 12 left. They won't kill them. So that way they'll pass the story and say, hey, look, stop, leave the Fulani people alone, leave them alone, and so forth. They'll give a message. Africans still play games like this as well, so I give you that. That's a historical thing. They don't kill everybody. A lot of times they like to leave some of the soldiers, so the soldiers give the eye view on what happened, and so that way they can warn the other, hey, look, if we continue to go, this is what's going to happen to us. They disappear, brothers and sisters. These guys disappear. And this is why the Wagner group was talking about the dangerous terrain. You heard me say about the Sahara. It's so beautiful, but it is deadly, and it's hard to navigate. And I don't know how people disappear, and they can come up on you before you know. You look up, they're right there on you. This is what the Americans had said when they got ambushed and blown away in Niger some years back now. And they thought they could just march in, and do what they got to do. And before they knew it, they were into a big firefight, and all of them were killed, except one. They allowed one to live, and I think he was African American. They allowed him to live, so he can go back and tell the tale. See, so this situation here is, again, I'm giving you, right down to the ground level, as though you're there. I'm bringing you to this spot. I'm bringing you to where there's these ambushes happening. I'm bringing you as though you're there watching it, so you can understand the mindset of our Fulani brothers. You can understand the mindset of the bandits. You can understand the mindset, the Mujahideen among the Tuareg, Afro-Tuareg, our brothers, and the Afro-Arabs, our brothers, and understand their mindset, why they're doing what they're doing. That's my job as a Muslim, is to give you both sides of the story and do it as best to my ability and correct. If the Tubab is correct, by law, I have to give that credence to it. If we harmed the Tubab illegally, as you heard me say before, we have no right to send people into the land of the Tubab and kill their kinfolk. We have no right to do that, brothers, sisters. We have no right to do that. The only time we can do that is when we have a declared war. And that war, as you heard me in other classes, there's steps to this. Our Prophet ﷺ has given us steps to this. If we're in declared war, because we have fatwas, we have a unison, we have a leader who gives this fatwa, and we have our scholarly body echo this fatwa, and then now we could go fight. We use every stratagem of war to win, okay? But we're not at that stage yet, because we have Mujahideen groups here. We have one here. We don't have one Amir. We don't have one Sultan now to give an order that we follow. We have many Amirs, okay? We have many Amirs. Every group has their own, but we don't have one Sultan who's giving the orders to everybody. We don't have that. So that war, you take it into Europe and bomb, that's criminal, brothers and sisters. We don't do that. We cannot. So even though the Tuba comes in our land and do that to us, we cannot reciprocate. This is some of the laws of Islam. I'm giving you a little bit for those who do not understand why you hear me talk harshly when the brothers go into Britain and bomb. It's criminal. They have no authorization to do that. I don't care what the British are doing in Mali or any other place. We have not declared war. We don't have one sultan to give us to lead. We don't have that. It's coming. It's coming. Our Prophet ﷺ said that, and if you understand his sayings, the hadiths, okay, in Arabic it's hadiths, you see his timeline. They've been right on cue, and we're at the point where he told us you start to look out for one thing. He says when the Bedouins of the desert, Talmud Jazeera, built the tallest buildings, what has happened? The UAE sports some of the tallest buildings in the world. He predicted this and said, you watch out for that. Then he said, the next avenue to this is the sheer killing, what he called El Harish. We have that everywhere in America. We have that in Africa, in Asia. We're having killings, ruthless killings. And he gave the example of the killings. If you heard me in my Islamic class, I'll give you this and I'll go off that. But he said how we understand this is, when, like the policemen inside the United States, when they kill black folk, he says, he's talking about the killer and those being killed. He said the killer doesn't know why he's killing. And the person who's being murdered doesn't understand why he's being killed. We have that. We're starting to have that. When they hit a Fulani village, that child doesn't understand why he's being killed. That mother who's nursing that child is being killed. She doesn't understand why this brother, her Fulani, her Hausa brother or Dogon brother or Malian brother, whomever he is, come to murder her. A lot of them don't understand why they're murdering themselves. This is what we're talking about, brothers and sisters. And it's a serious, serious thing. Now, this episode that I'm talking about here now, I won't get really deep into it. That the Messina group, they hit this base. They could have took the base, but they didn't. And they left the base and they killed many. They wounded 37, killed 40. I can't remember all the numbers. And so, again, they let it to sit. And the reciprocity in this, where you see what I said, is again, brothers and sisters, it's the sheer numbers. And I want that installed in your head, especially you Fulani brothers and sisters don't understand your history. And I'm giving you this logic as a historian to tell you how dangerous and how deadly this situation is. And we are steps away from somebody in one of these groups to call a big jihad and call up all the Fulani who are ranging here we go, where we go, here we go. Our Fulani range and call for a jihad to bring all the Fulani to an area to start to take over the Sahel region. I believe that could come maybe in a year, perhaps maybe two, I don't know. And then we really be something. And I believe the catalyst to this situation, brothers and sisters, and everybody is on pins and needles right now, is Sudan. You remember what I said? If Sudan is taken by the Fulani, by our brothers, the RSF, and everybody's talking about this, they feel it's going to trigger a regional war. So I'm giving you all of this for you to think about how deadly it is. And there's going to be a lot of killing and dying. And I hate to see that. And I believe, brothers and sisters, this could be avoided if our leaders stop including the West. You heard me talk the other day about we have some guides here. We use black faces to talk to black men. We use Africans to talk to other Africans and bring them to the table, as you saw me talk about our famous Sheikh and what he did. Okay, I mean, what and his what he did, you know, and luckily, I think my brother who gave me these photos here. He marched right in between the Mujahideen, had audience. He was escorted in, escorted out. We need this in order to solve the deadly shootings and killings I believe is coming. And we can avoid that by allowing people like him and others like him, black faces, Africans, to go and mediate. Because these brothers here across the board are not going to be mediated by some pencil neck two-bob from the United States. It's not going to happen. Or you bring a hypocrite Muslim from one of the governments to come over there with his suit and clean shaven. And when it's time to pray, he doesn't pray with the brothers. Or when he do pray, he doesn't know how to pray correctly. You watch him and say, oh man, look at this guy. He says he's Muslim, he can't even pray right. He doesn't understand how many rak'ahs, I mean units of prayer, he must do in a particular salat. And you saying, well, you know, Yahya, you're a little harsh. Well, I heard about a group being negotiated. They brought the brother in here. And the brother was forced to go in there. He didn't like it. And when he went to go talk to these brothers, it was time for prayer. This particular incident, the brothers went to pray. He didn't pray with them. They asked him, are you Muslim? He said, yeah, but he didn't pray with them. That killed the negotiations. The other part was they brought another punk to come in there. They said oh yeah, I'm Muslim. When he came to pray, he didn't understand how many units of prayer he's supposed to do in Salat Asr. And they watched him. He could barely prostrate. That shows he was not making prayer. This is what I'm talking about, brothers and sisters. We have to do right. And I say again, we have the means to bring back this peace. And I'm gonna give you solutions the next time around, because I'm getting closer to closing, to bring my solutions for us to talk about and to think about and ponder. You write me and tell me, because I got brothers. I thank the brothers a lot who have been writing me, giving me good questions and asking questions and so forth and so on, and some sisters too. And you know, and this is what we need so we can have that. But we as African people need to have this education and knowledge, brothers and sisters. Why are we waiting on the UN? Why are we waiting on the two-bob think tanks? We should be thinking for ourselves. See, we should be having our brothers who are intellectuals, who are famous, who have command respect. They should be in this mix here, and whatnot, because we need to have somebody who can walk in between these brothers. Now you look at this, and let's look at the logic. Now, how is a man from the United States walking in with his suit going to fit with these hardened fundamentalist brothers? How would that work? Or you get a hypocrite from one African government to come. He'd probably be, I would think that he'd be very nervous, and he'll probably bring half of the military with him, and that negotiation is gone. You got to bring your statesman in there. He's got to come in. He's got to be, his strength has to be the Quran and Sunnah. You see these brothers here? I can walk in between them. They can look at me, by looking at me, they'll know that I'm adhering to the Quran and Sunnah. They can see this in me. So automatically they would give me Salam Alaikum. Yeah, Sheikh. This is what they would say to me in Arabic. See? But a hypocrite, they'll look at his guy, he got a suit, he's clean shaven. It's not going to work, brothers and sisters. And I have to give you the bare facts of that because this is the truth. This is the truth. And I'm trying to give you this information so you can discern. Now, I'm going to cover a little bit more of this and I'll be closing here, brothers and sisters, till we have another segment. The interesting part about this is you read this caption here. The Sahelian governments stay quiet about the Fulani groups. It's out of fear. Because again, I showed you the English map of Africa, and you see West Africa, they're, especially Mali, they are surrounded by Fulani groups. They stay quiet, but yet in private, they're instrumental in bringing in Tuba mercenaries, Western Special Forces groups, etc. Russian Special Forces and mercenary groups in private to conduct missions on the Fulani Herdsmen. And normally who they encounter are our brothers, okay, our brothers who are not Mujahideen and fighters. This why you understand why the Fulani are killing on sight. Because these people who are being paid by our black faces in governments to come to kill Fulani herdsmen, right? But who they kill? They kill these kind. Our brothers here. This is who they kill. This is who they're killing. See what I mean? This is who they're killing. So, and then they come back and report it to the press that they just killed a bunch of terrorists. This man doesn't even have a gun, and he's a nomad. He's a Fulani, nomad. He takes his cattle across the savannah and some parts of the Sahara, the desert, and he goes back and forth. That's his living. This is his livelihood. His wealth is his cattle. So they go to kill them, and this is what is triggering the jihad. Now you understand, brothers and sisters, why this situation needs to be talked about. I'm giving you what is actually happening. These Tuba mercenaries and hypocrites and these other forces from the Sahelian governments are in on it, and they go kill the wrong Fulani people. They go kill the wrong people. They don't go fight them. See, they don't fight these guys. They don't fight them. See, but they go to fight here. Innocent villagers, and a massacre. See, so now you understand why the Fulani groups and even the Afro-Arabs and why they're so upset with the governments. Why they hate to see the Tuba come in there, because they know that they're going to go kill their kinfolk. See, they know that, and this it's a sad epitaph, brothers and sisters. It's very, very sad. So now you got the picture, the full picture. Yeah, you listen to BBC and all these others. You listen to them, and then you marry up what I'm telling you. Because when you start to think, when you listen to them, you'll start to grasp, you say, it doesn't make sense. Because they'll say, oh, the Fulani, they're terrorists, they're herdsmen, they just went over and killed. They don't tell you what happened, what precipitated that. They don't give you that because they know why. They know what precipitated that, but they won't tell you because they want you to be mad with all the Fulani people, with me, my brothers, and you'll say, oh man, Sheikh Yahya, he's Fulani, so he's got to be interdicted. Ahmed over here, he's Fulani, we have to do this to him. This is what they want done. When in fact, I'm not carrying any weapons, nor organizing any groups to hurt anybody. See? But yet, I most likely will be attacked, like I talked about, and killed, more so than our brothers, our brothers here. They most likely will be surviving more rarely so than perhaps people like me, because they will go after me to kill me and then label me a terrorist so they can put it in their books to say, we just took out a leader of a terrorist cell. And you'll be sitting in your chair and you'll see a picture of me and you say, okay, I see him. But where's his army? Where's his guns? Where's all of his people that he's supposed to be leading? They won't give you that. So most likely I'll be killed first, but the brothers here won't be touched. This is the war on terror, brothers and sisters, that the West talks about. This is their war on terror when they come after people like me. And these brothers here, they're multiplying. You heard me talk about this. I have documents. Brothers and sisters, let me tell you something. These Mujahideen groups are not being touched. They select maybe one weaker ones and they can take them out. But there's hundreds and hundreds of them. And as we speak, new splinter groups pop up. One happens here, then another splinter group comes over here. One creates a military wing. One creates a political wing. It's like this. And that's why you heard me say, if these brothers and all of them get together and they come up with one sultan, it's going to be lights out. And when they call for jihad and when they begin to hit, like our prophet said, it's not, I don't believe, I don't believe it's now. I don't believe that. It's not now, because there's other things got to happen first. But we're getting close to that. It's going to come a time, brothers and sisters, where with these Mujahideen, there will be one leader and everybody will be making their pledge to him, and they will take over this continent. I mean, take over the world, and we'll be under Islamic rule. And the rule will be so just, it says that he will not even be able to give charity because everybody will be enriched. Irrespective if you were Jew or Christian or whatever, or Jew or whatever, everybody will be enriched. This sultan will have, the world will be in such good state at that time, because it's going to fall, that he will not even be able to give charity. This is coming, but it's not yet, because we don't have a sultan yet. We don't have this person coming yet. We're getting close, but it's not yet. So with that said, I gave you this segment here, and we got other segments I'm going to cover. I had to give you the part about Mali, because Mali in itself is a very interesting situation. And now we got the information here on this one group, the Messina group, Fulani, who is calling someone for a little jihad. And in my opinion, my humble opinion, I believe they were wrong when they went to ISIS, because ISIS is not a body that could create a good, Islamic state. They cannot. They just cannot. Especially in West Africa, and they cannot. But again, I'm not there, but I must report what is happening. They made the decision to talk with them, but they wanted to create a Fulani emirate of Mali. This is essentially what, and they wanted to control it and run it. So that tells me that they were going to get ready to take on their Afro Tuareg brothers and their Afro Otter brothers and take them on in the north. I believe this was going to happen. If somehow or another this situation would made a turn. Right now, we still have the dividing line, as you see. We still have the dividing line. You look at Mali there in the yellow to your left. Half the northern part is still run by Afro Arabs and Afro Tuareg. Okay, the southern and central region are run by Fulani. All right. Now, somehow or another, they stopped to do it. I don't know why they stopped. I don't have the intelligence information, or I don't have anything to give me to understand why they stopped. But they have stopped this call, perhaps, to take Mali and create a emirate. But right now, it's still waiting in the wings. See, and so, brothers and sisters, for me, I look at it every day. I think, I pray, and I want to see this situation solved, because I'm tired of seeing tit for tat murders going across the Sahel, and children are dying in this. Innocent women and children are being slaughtered. Old men are being slaughtered. Young men are being slaughtered across the board. Afro-Arabs, Afro-Tuareg, okay, Bambara, Fulani, of course, Futafula. I mean, we look at it, and it's a shame, and we have to find a solution to bring peace, because this area is a catalyst for a fuller jihad of all of Africa. And you see, as you heard me talk about previously, we have this situation that's down in the southern. I'm trying to find my map here. We have over here in the southeast corner to your right, Madagascar. You see this there's 25 states out of 55 states are marred in Islamic insurrection or insurgencies. So you see the Sahel region is a catalyst to more violence that can erupt. If this thing is not solved, now we're looking at Sudan, everybody's on pins and needles, because we know the Sudan situation is going to trigger even more, especially if the RSF take control. And they're not going to be governed by the Americans nor the Russians. And the Russians and Americans want to control that, and they can only control it if the government forces take Sudan. Then they can help control Sudan, take its resources. If the RSF get in there, it's going to be very difficult, because they don't have the people, and they've already said they want their emirate, and they want it Islamically under the Sharia. If they want that, that means the Russians and the Americans are gone. Yes, they can have treaties, but they won't be able to rule indirectly like they have been ruling Sudan for many years, many decades. See, so everybody's looking at that. And it may trigger a regional war, because if RSF get it, the Fulani who will be energized to start to take more of it. Perhaps there may even be a meeting, and they'll back them with weapons. We don't know. I'm surmising things like this can happen. You look at this map, and let me give you the English so you can see it better. You see Sudan. The RSF takes Sudan, and then all of a sudden the meeting happens between the RSF and the Fulani groups. Maybe they meet in Chad and they talk about this, and they use this impetus now to create a new, as many officials say, a new caliphate, which I don't like to use that word because it's wrong in Islam. We cannot say caliphate because we don't have Amir Mu'minin. We don't have that. We don't have that yet. We don't have that. But we can have emirates because the sultanates and so forth. Yes, we can have that. But we cannot have a caliphate. But they call it a caliphate, meaning that all of this region of the Sahel will be under control of Fulani and relatives, kinfolk of Fulani. This is what they're afraid of, brothers and sisters. And so I give you that information today. And perhaps, again, like I said, I know it may be mundane for some of you, but please bear with me on this, because this is a good educational tool even for me, because I forgot some things, because I'm much older now. I learned a lot of things, but now as I start to go back into this again, things are popping up. And with the help of Subhanahu wa Ta'ala and my Fulani brothers who give me information and whatnot and so on, it's helping me to formulate these talks to give you the other side of the pictures, because you should understand what your brothers are saying, not from the standpoint of the Tuba, but from another African. He's your brother. You should listen to what he has to say. You should ask, why is he upset? Why is he taking on the soldiers? Okay? Why is he going over there to fight the doggone? You have to understand that. Why did he go there and kill our Hausa brothers? You see, we have to understand that. And it's not talking about right or wrong, but we should understand what's propelling him. Because if we understand what's going at him, maybe we can solve the problem to stop him. That's what Sheikh Gume has done. He knows the grievances. He said we have problems here with the grazing. Since they took his land and gave it to Christians, that propelled a response, a retaliation. You see? So this is some of the things why we have to talk it out. We got to get to the table to talk about our grievances that we have against others. And that's the way we solve this. Right now, we don't have that. We just don't. And every time you pick up some new service, especially Fulani news services, there's a new murder that's happened. Another tragedy has happened. A mass grave has been found. Fulani had just killed a bunch of Christians. Fulani just raided a Hausa innocent village. See, this is what we're getting now. And I told you the other day, I had a report here that's longer than my arm of all the killings and marauding and stuff that has happened. And it's sick in my stomach. And I couldn't read all of it. I read about half, and after I put it down, I couldn't. Because I can envision the hollering and screaming and how people were being murdered and butchered. People were hacked to death a lot of times. You think how painful death that is. They use machetes to hack people. They cut your arm, or they'll cut you around the neck. You'll die a painful death. See, or they cut off a leg and you'll bleed to death. These things like this are going. I mean, there's a lot of ruthlessness. See, so this is what I'm bringing forward to you. Why I want an urgent plea for us to solve our Sahel problem. So, okay, brothers and sisters, till the next time, I'll keep on going to give you more of this as we go on. So I'll leave you with this, with the beautiful words of Jannah. Assalamu alaikum. Rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.